Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Women with Mojo Conversations with Inspiring, Motivating Women Over 40. I'm Jill Lebofsky, the host of your show, and I started my company, Midlife Mojo, to be the premier support, education, and resource center for the midlife woman. And, when I talk about being your midlife mojo, mojo's more than just looking and feeling good. Mojo's also about doing good. And unfortunately, society a lot of times takes the midlife woman and kind of pushes us aside, considers us as fat and frumpy. And a lot of women think of themselves as being invisible. So I started Midlife Mojo and specifically this Women with Mojo conversation series to really highlight women out there over 40 who are already doing wonderful things in this world to spread their message and just to give their gifts to the world with the rest of us, share their gifts with the world with the rest of us. So I'm really excited to today present to you somebody who I met recently, and I think she's got some pretty special gifts. So I'm just going to take a moment and just bring her on. But before I do, I really want to encourage you to participate in the conversation. So in the title of the video, there was a little link you could click on, and that's for my streaming service to capture your name. And then at the end of the video, after we're done talking, because otherwise, if we answer questions during the middle, we'll get too all over the place. But at the end, we will go back and kind of look through and answer any questions. And for those of you who are watching on the replay, welcome, welcome. And please feel free to put your questions in. We definitely will go back and answer those as well. So I'm really excited to bring on my guest. Let me bring her on. There we go. Where'd she go? There she is. Hello, welcome, Ann. This is
Hi,
Ann Metcalfe. Ann, welcome to the Women with Mojo show.
thank you so much, Jill. It's
Yeah.
a real pleasure. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, I am
And
really excited to
you
have you, and I'm very excited to meet you recently. You just have a lot of good things to share with my audience, and I can't wait. So I thought that I would start by just reading to you all a little bit about Anne, and then we'll kind of get into all of what she has to share with us. So I'm just going to read her bio here. Anne Metcalfe lives in Delta, British Columbia, Canada, and has a love for nature and the earth. Over the past 18 years, she has gone through her own transformation from that of sleepy survival to one of awakened and thriving through the knowledge and truths she has researched and learned from different healing modalities and programs. And as a published author of a children's book that she came out in January 2020 called Rosie's Joy, A Magical Day in the Forest about love and community, but it's for all ages. She also writes poetry about how she understands our relationship and connection to the earth and the cosmos in her soon to be released book. In addition to being an author, Anne creates sacred design jewelry and hope chests that are small but powerful activators to assist individuals and humanity to live more in their essence hearts, both of which helps create inner peace and peace on earth. Anne's newest adventure involves helping people face chronic health challenges, providing them support and an opportunity to transform their fears into living a life with vitality and wellness. And Anne is going to demonstrate for us one of the modalities she uses during our time together today. So, Anne, I am really excited to kind of delve in. And you are a lady who's got a lot of, you've done a lot of things. Your path, I'm sure, there's got to be an interesting story there, I bet.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Um, do you want to start with your the
Yeah, well, I have some questions
question?
for you to start, but yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. First, I want to ask you a question. So I see you all bundled up there in Canada. So I'm here in Florida. I always say my shoulders bare, so it must be getting cold there, I guess.
It is. We've got the fall. Today was foggy in the morning, and I don't actually need this in the house, but I just thought I would put on my finery.
Well, I have to tell you, it looks for someone like me who doesn't get the change of seasons to be able to like see a scarf and a jacket, it like makes me feel like I'm living vicariously through you a little bit. So I get a little bit of it. So although I'll keep my warmth for most of the time.
Absolutely.
So part of the Midlife Mojo mission is really just about getting women in community and just, getting to know women in general and what they've got going on. And so I usually ask once a week in my group the question, what are three things that you're thankful for in this moment? So I thought that just to kind of get my audience to know you a little bit before we get, into the details, what are some, just, off the top of your head, what are like three things that you're just thankful for?
Well, there's a few things. One, I'm grateful for my friend Christine, who introduced me to my journey into the spiritual realm, my understanding of who I am. And actually, I was thinking about it the other day and how grateful I was for the health condition I had 18 years ago. And I'm just also grateful for my family, my friends, um, yeah, and life and being able to live it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, when you ladies hear her story, you'll understand why she's grateful for this wonderful life, absolutely, and living it vibrantly. So, just as a little like fun fact or something, it doesn't have to be anything too serious, but or if you want it to be, but just what's something like if one of these ladies was just to like meet you on the street, what would be something you would want somebody to know about you, a stranger who doesn't, that would kind of just let them know a little bit insight into who you are,
Hmm. Well,
or
I
just a
love
fun
nature.
fact.
I love nature. I love to walk with my friends every Saturday morning. We do a minimum of 10 miles. Um, I think
Nice.
it's 10
Wow.
miles, yeah, or 10 kilometers, 10 to
Mhm.
13 kilometers. Every Saturday, I participated in half marathons as a walker, and I love to
Nice.
circle dance. I love circle dancing.
Circle dancing, interesting. See, this is
Yeah,
why I ask these questions because, these are things you don't find out if you don't ask.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
love it. Thank you so much for sharing. That's wonderful. All right. So let's get into you a little bit in your story. So I wanted to start with when I read your bio, you talked about this like sleepy survival and then you had this awakening. So
yeah.
just kind of take us back to that sleepy survival period first. Like what was going on for you during that time before you kind of, found your
Well, let's see,
health?
that goes back about 5 decades.
Okay.
Well, I mean, at the age of 13, um, the minister at the church said I should be able to hear God. And so um, I couldn't hear God. So I said, well, you don't exist. And so for the next 50 years, I just sort of went on with my life. I've had a blessed life, a husband of 45 years, two kids, a granddaughter, and it was everything. I was in brownies, what you call Girl Scouts, for about 10, 15 years. So, my life was just carrying on, but I didn't know that there was anything else. And so, when I talk about this waking up, it was after I had the sarcoidosis and then meeting my friend Christine and then reading the books by Lee Carroll about Cryon, this magnetic angel, talking about love. And the first book says, "You are dearly loved by the entire universe." And I'm going, what? I had no idea. I mean, I love nature, and now I understand that the trees and the flowers and even all the animals are here as living beings, and I had no idea of any of that. I grew up in North Vancouver. The forest was my playground, but I had no idea, and so that's what I call this sort of waking up, so that I can just feel the deliciousness of life, of nature. I love I look at the patterns in nature. Every time I look at flowers, I go, okay, what's inside the flower? I take pictures of that. And so that's part of the awakening. And it was thanks to my friend Christine, who has since passed, who introduced me to that. Yeah. And anything else, Jill? Or do you want me to just keep talking about my journey, how I recovered actually from a diagnosis of sarcoidosis? And that was 18 years ago, and when I was 52. So up to kind of that point, I felt I was kind of asleep, and all of a sudden I was hit with this. It was a cold with a cough that didn't go away, and I kept bugging my doctor. And so through X-rays, you've got sarcoidosis, and he didn't know what it was. So I went searching on the internet, and my first career was a registered nurse. So I did that for a few years, and then when my kids got a bit older, I said, you know what, I don't want that 6 o'clock call Friday night to work night shift. So I quit nursing. And then a few years later, I went back and took me 5 years to go back to university, one course every semester to get my teaching
Hmm.
certificate. And even that has changed with my new understanding of who we are, who these kids are, and that we're all these beautiful, magnificent beings of light. And so I teach differently, which I
Yeah.
still do. I teach as a substitute teacher.
I love that.
Yeah.
And, I'm just listening to your journey. So, like you said, this is part of this whole Women with Mojo, right? So I know you have these gifts that you're going to share with us, but your journey is part of is such an inspiring part of your story. Even just going, like you said, to school one class at a time while you're doing your I mean, these are all parts, I think, that a lot of times women over 40, over 50, we just discount all of these things that we did, or we don't give ourselves the pats on the back, though, like, wow, like, what did we actually do, right? I mean, what did we actually do, and all those things. So I think that in itself is a pretty amazing thing, and all the things we do kind of lead us to where we are, right? All those little steps
Exactly.
along the way. And I can love the fact that you love nature. And so I wanted just to quickly mention your book, Rosie's Journey. Is called A Magical Day in the Forest. So Rosie's Joy, I apologize, Rosie's Joy. Is Rosie someone special, or is that a name that you picked out, or?
Well, Rose, the name actually came from my grandmother, and her name
Mhm.
was Rose Ella. And as I was playing with, um, actually, it was a pencil baby Buddha drawing.
Mhm.
And I found somebody on Fiverr who just brought her to life. And so I created an acronym. So
Mhm.
Rosie is actually remembering our soul's innate expression.
Love that.
Yeah.
I l
So
I'm
that's
so glad I asked that question.
yeah.
That was
Well,
not the answer I was expecting. I thought you were gonna say your grandkid or something. So,
yeah.
wow, I love that. Wow, that it makes it even more meaningful. So just tell
Mhm.
us briefly a little bit about the book, just where, if I don't know if it's available on Amazon, if anybody wants to get
Uh,
it.
right here. And it is available on Amazon. And
Okay.
you can get it either as a Kindle or a paperback. And
I
so basically, the story behind it was I was teaching a grade 1, 2 class,
Mhm.
and it was, there weren't that many kids. It was maybe like 22 students in the class. And it was, it, I could just feel the chaos in the classroom. And some of the kids were struggling with just the learning that they're having to do. And the, yeah, there was like this disconnect. So I went home and I said, what can I do in classes like this? Because it wasn't the only class. I go to kindergarten to grade 7, and some of these classes, I mean, that was a grade 1, 2 class, and I've been in grade 5 classes, and it's like this chaotic stuff. And I know that kids these days have a better sense of who they are and where they've come from, but this class didn't have that. So I wrote the basically the outline of the story, and it took me 3 years. And I never thought I was a writer. I basically scraped through in English in high school. I thought I cannot write. I'd be like Pooh Bear, think, 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 and there would be no thoughts. And so I had this beautiful editor, and she just helped me create the beautiful story. And it's about a community. It's a talking flowers and birds and trees. And this little girl Rosie comes into the forest, and she learns to just love the nature, and she becomes friends with a tree and learns to sort of tap into the energy of the tree. And it's the earth, it's, I mean, it's about the earth and our community on the earth and how our presence matters. We all matter. And that's what I wanted these kids um, to feel. And I was the lesson they had to do was once upon a time and write a fairy tale. And I happened to go back into the class the next week. And my book starts with, huh, still, yeah, I'll just take a breath.
That's okay.
Once upon a time in a galaxy far away. Sorry.
I think emotion is good, right? It shows your
Yeah,
passion and yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And it was the one of the boys, because normally it's once upon a time, whatever. And the boy wanted to say, "Can I say once upon a time in a galaxy far away?" I said, "Of course you can. It doesn't have to be in a castle or whatever." And so I wrote the story without the beautiful detail that the editor brought out.
Mhm.
And he said, and I had pictures from the internet. And I said, and he said, "Did you write that story?" I said, "Yes, I did." And so we had my original sort of version at the end of the class because they had been sort of chaotic. I sat them down, and it was just a beautiful end to the day. And so 3 years later, the book's been published. So
And
I say
and
to anybody, any of you women out there who think that you can't write, um, I think you can. And if you've got the desire to write your story, whatever that is, um, you can do it. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, and I agree, and thank you, and I love your emotion because right, that shows your how much you care, and by inspiring these kids right now, right, knowing when if I always think of the little girls out there, right, if the little girls, and boys too, but I just because I work with women, but if the little
Yeah.
girls really knew they mattered from and truly mattered and were truly connected to something bigger than themselves, like the universe, like in the environment. I mean, what stronger women we would be growing up, right? What I think about so many women that I work with now and the struggles they have that they wouldn't have had they had somebody, in their life to, offer a book like that or to
Yeah.
make them feel that way. So
Yeah.
I love that. That's wonderful. And so you're also a creative, and I love that. Like your neck, is that a necklace you're wearing right there?
Uh, that's that's my most recent. I do fused glass.
Oh, that's
I
gorgeous.
mean, and on
That
the
is
back
beautiful.
is this energy coin that is the activator that I talked about in my bio. And so for me, it took me to people and courses 7 years ago that I probably wouldn't have had an interest in. And it changed my life. It
Yeah.
changed my perspective on things. And now I love life. I was a scared little kid now growing up and didn't want to do anything because it was too scary. Don't ask me to do it. I mean, to this day, I probably would never do bungee jumping or jump out of an airplane, but just sort of everyday things, and just not wanting to go shopping or into downtown Vancouver like after 2 p.m. because what would I do in the traffic? Like, get over it. I mean, now it's not an issue, but
Yeah.
back then, joining groups, um, yeah, it was painful.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing how we evolve and so forth.
yeah,
And so now I know now you're starting to you work with, right? You've pivoted and you're starting to work with women specifically, or not women. You work with people who have chronic illnesses and just helping them heal a little bit. So how did you kind of get into that? Like, why was that something that was, you seem like a woman like myself, who just follows her passion. So that's kind of, and that's what I do. If something interests me, then I fall in love with it and then I want to teach it. And so it sort of seems like you're the similar type of person. So how did you kind of get into this whole world of, gut health and so forth and wanting to share?
well, I guess part of it, and I realize now in my sort of recent reading that I've been doing, is that the sarcoidosis 18 years ago, I mean, it was the start of my spiritual journey because I met people that, like Christine, who introduced me to this whole realm of the universe and love. And um, and then because of the sarcoidosis, which is it's an autoimmune disorder, it can affect any organ in your body, your eyes, your heart, your skin. And mine, it was in my lungs, and it was a cough that wouldn't go away. And with a nursing background, I knew after I checked the internet to say that, well, many of them recover just by themselves, and a third of them end up on prednisone to treat the autoimmune issue. And I'm going, I don't want to do that. I don't want that round face and all the side effects of prednisone. And as the universe would have it, I met somebody who was at a health fair talking about raw food. And so I'm going, oh, okay, what is that about? And so I went to a couple of her workshops. I made raw applesauce or raw apple pie and raw spaghetti sauce with grated zucchini. I'm going, oh, I can do this. And then she introduced me to somebody else who healed her whole family from rheumatoid arthritis, from diabetes with their 14-year-old, brain fog with her daughter, and the woman had a heart condition. And they all healed themselves with the raw food. So I'm going, okay, then that's my challenge. And so I did. I went raw food for a full year and I think probably another 2 years. And after the first year, I went back to the internist and basically said, you're fine. There was no cough, nothing. It did not progress. And I'm just so grateful for that. And so now, as I look at my new program called Trust Your Gut, and it's that I call it Smart Foods to Freedom, because you'll have that freedom to live the life that you want to live in the way you want to live it without prescriptions. And so that sarcoidosis brought me to this point. And the funny thing is that the program I'm teaching wasn't on my radar, not until I came back from Iceland in March. And all of a sudden, I'm working with a guy with an app, and he's introducing me to this marketing program, JVX or JVIC. And I had to have an e-course for the app. So I'm going, what do I do? And then, of course, it came to me. I can use a pendulum, and I can teach people how to use a pendulum to test the foods that their body needs, not what the pharmaceuticals are telling you, not what the food industry is telling you. And um, and even specialists, bless their hearts, because they've got the science. But I mean, I've done raw, vegan, vegetarian, everything. I've done paleo. I've done eat for your right blood type. I'm trying to think what else
You have done it all.
I've done it all. And so recently, because after I taught my first course, I'm going, oh, okay, if I want to be this sort of expert, I've started testing all my food. So I've been at it for over a month. And sometimes I have days or meals. I kind of eat what presents. And so if I'm going out for dinner, I mean, if it's, I refuse to eat veal. That's one of my dislikes. I refuse to eat it because of the cruel treatment. And I refuse to eat pork unless I know that it's come from a happy farm and they've lived a happy life. And so those are my limitations. And luckily, most of my friends don't serve that. When I was doing the raw food, I would eat before I went for dinner, and I would have the salad for the dinner because I couldn't eat what they were serving. And so now I eat what presents, and most of the time I will eat whatever they're serving because I know my body can handle it. And I just thank the food when I am in joy and gratitude for that food. my body can handle it just fine. And I just enjoy the meal because I'm there with friends and I want to enjoy the whole experience. So,
Well, I
um,
mean, that's all energy, right?
yeah,
I mean, food is energy and food gives off energy. And like you said, like, pigs on happy farms, right? I mean,
yeah,
there is a difference. I mean, in what we put in our bodies and what and how that can affect our own makeup and our own energy just from, what we eat as well. So,
yeah,
that's why I love that you are so in tune with nature. That's something that I teach my ladies, especially in my program, fasting program, is to listen to their bodies, and let that kind of guide them in terms of what they want to eat. But I don't really have the tools for that. Some people are like, well, what does that mean? Like, how do I really know what's good for me? And so I was so glad to meet you. And this, I'm hope that you're going to take some time now. I would love for you to explain a little bit about, you talked when we talked on the phone, you talked to me about muscle testing, and then how so you
mhm,
can explain a little bit about what muscle testing is, and then how you use it with the pendulum, and then how you specifically use it with food. That would be really helpful, I think, for all ladies, but especially my intermittent fasters who are saying, okay, what's best for me in this window? I don't really know. So yeah,
oh,
I may have some butt in a little bit and
yeah,
ask you some questions as you go along,
yeah, no.
but definitely share that with us,
Oh, I'd love
please.
to. Yeah, thank you. So the muscle testing, it's based on our electromagnetic energy. I mean, as Jill says, we're all energy. Everything is energy. And we're these electromagnetic beings. And so, I mean, everything in nature has that energy. It's essence. That's what it is. And so when we use the pendulum, it's a very fine um, well, muscular energy. It's going through your muscles. You've got 60 trillion cells, and they're all vibrating and going. Whoosh. And when we ask questions and do the testing, your body is responding to that. It's responding to everything that you put into your body. And so with the pendulum, like this is a fused glass one that I've made, and so that's sort of one of my new little products that I make. But it can be anything. It can be a ring on a string. I've got metal ones. People have crystal pendulums. And if you've got a pendulum, uh, you can pull it out and grab yourself a couple of pieces of food and you can practice with me. And so this is the method that I've learned. I know there's other ways of testing. I mean, people use this and they, for their yes and their no, um, that's the yes. The no is you're stuck and the yes. Anyway, but I found that that didn't work for me. Some people do the arm testing, and if you ask a question and your arm stays strong, then that's a yes. But that's kind of hard and tiring to do uh, with yourself. And so my first spiritual coach 10 years ago taught me this. And so you need to get a baseline for what your yes and your no is. So you stick out your thumb. Your thumb is the yes. So I will take my pendulum. So you just say, show me yes. So I say, show me yes. And for me, it's sort of north south, kind of with my thumb. So, so it's north south with my thumb. And then I put out my pointer finger. With camera. Okay. And then I say, show me no. And so now it's going, interesting. 2 hours ago, it was a different movement. So right now, show me no is a counterclockwise direction. Sometimes I think my body plays tricks with me because I can go for weeks on end and it will always be, normally it's the opposite of what my thumb is. Now the middle finger is the doubt. It's sometimes maybe, or I'm not too sure. So show me doubt, show me sometimes maybe. All right, so this is interesting because it's going in the same direction. So what I will do, and I know I've had loss of water because that's one of the issues. When you're testing, you need to make sure you're hydrated. So just going to take a deep breath and just kind of center myself because that's what I teach in my class. Just center yourself. The pendulum it kind of gets the subconscious mind out of the way because it wants to know, what are you doing? What are you doing? So let's go back. So the yes is show me yes, is the perpendicular. Show me no is that's what it was earlier. And then the doubtful or not too sure is a counterclockwise direction. And it'll be different for each of you as you practice. And it takes practice, it takes patience, and it takes a lot of grace and compassion because you are learning this relationship with your body. Because for most of us, we've never listened to our body before. And I started this 10 years ago. So when I was 60, I started this. And so you can learn at any age, and it's fairly simple. But that's the groundwork for the pendulum. And then the other way of testing without the pendulum is your body. And some people call it body tilting. It's your body pendulum. And I will stand this way, and you can practice with me, those watching. And you just kind of stand, your feet are apart, and you just take a breath in and you just breathe out and just sort of relax the body. And so you want to start again with a baseline. So I usually start with a man's name, and I'll say, my name is Fred. And then you can just put your hands down. I close my eyes. My name is Fred. So I go backwards. So that's my no. And then I say, my name. My name is Anne. And I lean forward. And so to get a sort of the middle finger, they sometimes you stand with I say two names. So my name is Freddie Ann, and my brain's going, okay, she's not Fred, she's Ann. We're not too sure. So then I go sideways. So that's the basis of the testing. And sometimes I'll just use the pendulum. Sometimes it's quicker. You can take it to the grocery store. You can check and see what of those 20 varieties of apples does your body want, right? And vitamin C, you want to take some extra vitamin C. So you go to the vitamin shelf and you put this in front of each bottle, and you can point your finger to the bottle you're pointing because these days we can't touch anything because of COVID. So you just point to the bottle, and when you've got your yes and your no, then you just go from bottle to bottle. Is this beneficial for my health? Is this beneficial for my health? And you just go from bottle to bottle, and you can test the vegetables you want. And because part of the issue is our habits, what we grew up with, what our culture says we should eat, and what the specialists and the food industry says we should eat. So we're just gonna, I'm gonna try a couple of things, Jill, and then once if I get too long in the mouth, let me know.
No, you're
So
doing great. No, I'm looking forward to the demonstration. That was a perfect explanation. I do have a quick question for you
yeah,
though.
yeah.
So you were talking about the testing and you have your thumb for yes, your pointer for no, and your middle finger for doubt. But then you said when you were looking at like different foods, you always point when you're actually ready to do it. You would point.
So once you've got your basis, once you've got that direction of the
Mhm.
pendulum, then you can go to anything in your kitchen and test it because you've
Okay.
already and to begin with, you would probably do that maybe every time so
Mhm.
that you've got some practice. And then you could do it maybe just once a day or, once, because sometimes it does change for me, but most of the time, this is my yes and this is my no. And so I can just go with that. I trust it.
Mhm.
I just trust that that's it. But I've
Yeah.
been doing this I started 10 years ago. And I wasn't doing it all the time. And because of my course, I'm doing it all the time. right?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's great though, because you know what? Sometimes, it's something that's always been a part of your life, you've been using for years just for yourself and maybe not as much. And so sometimes, it takes something outside of us to get focused and realize how, wow, I should be doing this like I find that with my oils all the time, right? I
yeah,
always say, oh, I should use this or that, and like days will go by and I haven't. But then when I'm teaching something, okay, like I got to make sure I'm doing, and that gets me back in a routine. So I'm glad that
yeah.
you've found a way to share this, and it's also helping you kind of get in your routine. All right, I'm going to come off the screen so you
Absolutely.
can demonstrate a little
Yeah.
bit, okay?
So I've got an apple, and so we're going to test. So we'll do the pendulum first. So there's different ways of asking, and actually, it shouldn't be an ask; it should be a statement. Um, I've just been sort of talking with people, and that's how I was taught. It was to make a statement instead of asking a question. So I state this apple is beneficial for my health, and I have this acronyms called the WOW factor: your whole optimal wellness. And so, is this food beneficial for my whole optimal wellness? And so then I just hold it in front and I know what my yes is. So, and I should put it like this. So that's my north south. So that apple is a yes, that for me to eat. And I've been eating apples for a couple of days now, uh, resetting my gut biome. And we could do the opposite, and you could say, let's see, um, I should avoid eating this apple. This apple is something I should avoid. And so my pendulum is going, no, don't avoid that. I could ask, is this apple detrimental to my health? Is it detrimental to my health? And the answer is actually no, it's not detrimental, but it's something I don't need to have right now. And when I teach my course, I talk about our vibrations. This is, I got a vibrational frequency, and I am a vibrational frequency. And I say, are our vibrations aligned? Because when they're aligned, so are our vibrations aligned? And the answer is yes, it is, which means that will do well. My gut buddies will love it. My 37 trillion of them will love it. So then I take the apple and I'll stand this way. And so I'll just say, this apple is beneficial for my health. And I go forward. And then I can say, this apple is something I should avoid having. So no. So I don't want to avoid having it. So that confirms the yes. It's kind of a way you can do that. And then I've got, let's see, I love yams. Now I've got some yam chip. Actually, these are those vegetable chips. They've got all those cool root vegetables that I love. So let's ask. So uh, this food is beneficial for my health, and that is a no. And so I would ask, so the question, the opposite would be, I should avoid eating these chips. And the answer is yes. So I should avoid eating them. So now we check with our body, and I'll ask, these chips are beneficial for my health. And I breathe in, and I kind of make that conscious connection. So no, they're not. They're not beneficial. I love them, and that's one of the things that I found. And I've got a video, and maybe I can share it on Jill's Facebook page, because it talks of, I prepare a lunch, and I've got the foods, and there's a breakfast as well. The foods I want to have, and what I want to have, and what my body is wanting, are two different things sometimes. So now, Jill, is that enough for a demonstration for your
Yeah,
group?
that no, that
Good
was
enough?
perfect, and
Okay.
I love that first of that you. I'm glad that you demonstrated two different ways to do it. So first of all, and I may have shared this with you, but for a lot of the ladies on my on my page, we are into essential oils. Not everybody, but a lot of the people are into essential oils. And so I was taught years ago to take the essential oil bottle and do the same thing. You can hold it and you can either move forward or back. And that would,
Mm.
decide like that exact thing you were talking about to see whether an oil was good for you. I've been to my chiropractor and he's done the whole,
Oh,
pressing down thing. I've
wow.
done some other course where we did this thing. So all of that, but I had never heard the pendulum. So, and I think that is what an easy thing to do, first of all. And it was really interesting when you would put it over it. I mean, it would start rocking really. I mean, you could see that the energy between the food and
Yeah,
that so
yeah,
easily.
yeah.
So I have two questions about that.
Good.
Number one, I love those Terra chips too, so I hope they're okay for me. But what about food that's like been processed? So food that because you were talking about frequencies, and so I know that food vibrates at different frequencies, and so the more whole, natural, it's going to have a stronger vibration. And processed food is basically dead for the most part.
Yeah.
So would how does that work with the pendulum? I mean, is it the same thing? It kind of just it's I don't know. I could be just
Well, it's interesting because on the in the course I created this chart and it was called life force energy, which is what this has, right? And it's
yeah.
got this life force energy, and we were testing different things, and things like the packaged chips don't have that life force energy.
That's
And if we
yes. That's
want
what
to
I was
be
thinking.
healthy, then it should be like 80% or more, 70 maybe. But if anything is less than 60 or 50, then it's got no life force in it. And so what the body probably doesn't know what to do with it. And the thing with processed foods, now these ones, it's just, I think it's oil, salt, and the root
Yeah,
vegetables.
they're
So,
not bad.
so
Yeah.
that's fine. And so I think that the really processed foods,
Well, what I'm saying is you
um,
should go out there and get a pack, like a thing of Fruit Loops or something, or you know what I'm
oh,
saying, like a box of cereal, like for
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
uh,
and that, I mean, the whole issue with that one, you've got the processed wheat, and research is showing that the gluten yes no thing has been going up and down like this. And I was listening to a fellow, a doctor, on the gut biome summit a few weeks ago, and he was skeptical that gluten was an issue. And after listening to colleagues' research, he's going, that's interesting. I might have to rethink what I thought about gluten because I know a lot of people say that it's not good. And what it is, it's not so much the that it's been not all wheat's been genetically engineered. It's not been genetically modified like soy and corn,
yeah,
but it's been hybridized.
yeah,
So the original wheat from 10,000 years ago isn't the wheat that we're eating now because it was much shorter. Now the wheat is tall. They've changed the um, I guess the gene code in it, but they haven't engineered it with another plant or substance, but they've just taken the best of the best and switched it. So now that wheat we cannot tolerate.
yeah.
A lot of us can't.
I
So the
use a
processed
I use
food,
a wheat, an einkorn wheat. Have you heard of einkorn wheat?
I have heard of it and I haven't used it. I've been playing with cassava root flour,
Yeah, I have been using
um,
that a lot too. Yeah, I really like
tiger
cassava.
nut. Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes baking a little bit of a challenge because it
mhm,
needs a lot more moisture because it's quite
yeah,
heavy.
it
Well, I
definitely
make
is.
muffins out of it. And, okay, it's not the fluffy one I get at the store, but then that's got oils and sugars. And when you make it yourself, then you know what goes into it.
Yeah.
right?
Um,
Yeah. So
and
the
I love
quickest
that
we
we can
want
you
to
can even
learn.
like even in a recipe, you can like, even test the ingredients, right? With like the whole right. So you could take a
Yeah.
recipe. So you may think, okay, I'm making something healthy for me, right? Because I'm assuming even with a pendulum, even if just because it's an apple and it's healthy, doesn't mean it's healthy for you in that moment. And so I think even in a
That's right.
recipe, it could be a healthy recipe, but maybe there's one thing in there, ingredient that's not that good for you. So I think that would be really helpful to be able
Yes.
to
And I
test that.
actually haven't done that because I mean I've done it sort of the odd time, but sometimes when you mix a soup, you're throwing in all the ingredients, and especially when you're baking. And what
Yeah.
happens with the chemistry of it? I haven't sort of gone into that aspect of it,
Hmm.
um, but and because sometimes I just I want a muffin. I make bread with the cassava flour, and there's a sorghum. Sorghum
Hmm.
is another that you get the flour or almond flour,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Or coconut flour. So there's lots of alternatives to the
Hmm.
wheat, and you just have to play with the recipe, add a little more baking powder or something to
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, I absolutely love everything that you have shared today. I hope that, you ladies out there have gained a lot of incredible knowledge from Anne. The demonstration was perfect. I know everybody's going to be going running to their refrigerators now, pulling out things, and everybody's going to be leaving forward and back. But Anne, if people wanted to kind of, connect with you a little bit, number one, you said that you were selling pendulums. Is that what you said? Or you're making your own pendulums for
I
sale, or were
am.
you
Yeah.
recommending for people to go somewhere and purchase them on their own if they wanted it?
Well, I mean, they can buy them through me, and at the moment, I've got two websites. One has got the jewelry, my poetry, the book, and
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And I actually haven't got the pendulums on there, so they would probably just need to email me.
Okay.
Um,
Do you
and
wanna give me is there I can put on the screen if there's some, the best place that you would like for people to connect with you, and I can put it on the
okay,
screen for them.
the best place. Um, well, probably I guess my email.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with me putting that up here? Are you comfortable with me putting
Yeah,
that on the screen?
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
go ahead and give it to me real quick, and
Right.
I'll
So
put
it's
it on here.
Rosie's Joy. So it's ROSIES Joy
Yeah.
and 11 at gmail.com. So it's Rosie's Joy 11 at gmail.com.
Alright, let me put that on the screen for people, and that way it should show up there. There it is.
That's got it. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that it?
So if they want to talk about, and I can show them with my camera when they talk to me.
Mhm.
I've got all different shapes, sizes, colors. So that's one thing. And
So tell
also,
us more. Yeah, tell us more. You keep mentioning this course.
yeah.
So,
So
what
this,
is the name of your course? When is it? And I guess I could email you for all of the detailed details.
yeah.
But when are you planning on starting it? And what's it called? And all that. Just the
Okay.
basics.
The first course was in July, and that was my beta one, and 6 weeks. And your midlife Mojo people, when I get my app up and running in another week or two, they can actually go to my app, which is called Authentic Sacred Design. So that'll be the name of my app. They
Mhm.
click on that app, and once I know the actual link, I can share that with your Facebook group and with you. And so you
Nice.
can go and watch my 6 1 hour sessions. That was my first course, Trust Your Gut. And it was
Nice.
mindful eating, healing naturally. And it's that smart food to freedom so that they can actually watch that first course for free. And if
Wonderful.
they, and I teach them, the first lesson is what I did today. And then I go
Mhm.
through fruits and vegetables, proteins, liquids. And then the last one is my neuroscientist friend who um, explained the sugar brain connection
Ooh,
and why it's so
nice.
hard. It's harder to get off sugar than it is cocaine. That's how it,
From a
yeah.
from a I can't even say recovering sugar addict. So
No, me
yes, that's
neither.
if I that's there if there's one downfall I have, that would
Yeah.
be it for sure. That's I always say that's my last mountain to conquer. Um,
I
but
love
that sounds wonderful. So I think ladies in general, so that course sounds wonderful, and to be able to access it for free and coming up soon. So I would strongly suggest to you ladies to definitely email Anne and just kind of get in her on her mailing list a little bit, and I'm sure you can connect with her if any of these questions you have a little bit more, and just kind of get into Anne's world in general. And then if you're interested in her book, Rosie's Joy, you can go over to Amazon and get that there as well. And the holidays are coming up, so that's kind of a nice gift. If you do have
exactly.
any grandkids
Yeah, yeah.
for it, that
And
would make a really nice gift.
can I mention the next course?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
please do.
So if those of you who watch uh, the first Trust Your Gut program, part of the watching is I'd love to have your feedback on what what you enjoyed, what you learned from it, how you benefited from it, and if there was something missing, right? How I could improve. And if that speaks to you, then I am having my second uh, course coming up the end of October. And for your Jill's for your group, it's a $297 for the 6 weeks, Facebook
Hmm.
support, that kind of thing. And I'd like to offer it to you people for $147. And so if that
Wow,
speaks to you as
very
well, I'd
nice.
love to have you come and play. And the second one is more for people who have these chronic issues. I mean, obesity is one of them, but it's obesity is caused by so many other things.
Hmm.
And so people with, well, like me with sarcoidosis, diabetes too, and even like arthritis. And um, I haven't treated any, I'm not a doctor. My, uh, I'm a nurse, but so I'm not treating anybody. That's the wrong word. But because our body heals itself.
Hmm.
And when you're working with somebody like Jill, the intermittent fasting is a great thing, and having that right mindset, right? That you
Definitely.
can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, email me and we can talk. And if you want to just chat on a Zoom call, I can do that too.
Yeah, I love that. Ladies, definitely, definitely take advantage of the free course and give Anne some feedback, because I think she's got a lot of gifts to share, and we like all of us, we all learn from each other, right? And so I think that's how we all learn and grow. And then if you like that, definitely that 147, that is a steal. So, and you're going to get some great value for that, because I can already tell just the value you've given to us just in this hour has been wonderful. So I can only imagine the value that you will provide during that course. So, Anne, I'm going to thank you. I'm going to take you off screen and wrap things up, but I want to thank you so much for being here. If there's any little last sentence or last parting words you want to share with everybody, you are
Uh,
welcome to.
well, I'm just so glad that you're doing what you do and to enable these women to be more of who they are. So I'm grateful. Thank
Yes.
you.
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you. All right. So hang there. Don't go anywhere. I'll be with you in just a minute. Let me. All right. So, ladies, I think that was another episode here. Episode show. I don't know what I'm calling this, but of Women with Mojo in conversations with inspiring, motivating women over 40. And Anne was definitely one of those. So, I hope that you enjoyed this. And I want you to looking forward. We're going to be doing them once or twice a month, bringing on guests who just have a story to share, and maybe something that can help inspire you or help you in your journey as well. So I'm going to come off and just going to send you off with a little video. But thank you all for tuning in. And oh, you know what? Let me just quickly look here before I do this. I don't know if I see any questions or anything. Okay, so I will look through before we get off, and if there's any questions, we'll go through it and answer on the replay. But anyways, you just all have a fantastic night, and I am going to